special. Visit aftermath.media today and sign up for your Aftermath Premium Yearly subscription at just $79. But hurry, this offer won't last long. Celebrate with us and elevate your media experience to the next level. Aftermath.media, the ultimate resource for parapolitical and paranormal fans. Visit aftermath.media and subscribe today. That's aftermath.media. Attention all Ground Zero.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and hermaphrodites, my fellow slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child-trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to yet another exciting broadcast. Today, the concept that we're going to approach is why people are not as quote-unquote awake as you think. I see and talk to a lot of people who are extremely hopeful. Some people believe Jesus is going to save them. Some people believe the aliens will save them. Some people believe Q and Trump and the Flat Earth movement will save them. Nobody's coming to save you. You're it. Okay? It's like a game of tag. You're it. And now you've got to go and you've got to pass that tag on, yo. Now, this is a difficult subject to broach because it makes me appear very arrogant and like a know-it-all and that kind of thing. And if that's how you want to play it, don't keep watching, okay? Because this is not about standing over people, saying that I'm better than them or anything like that. I've just done more than anybody in this country ever will in terms of truth movement contributions in the international sphere and in the national sphere. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that I've been more effective. I'm not saying that my content has been better. What I'm saying is all the people who are really good at what they do that I've had on this show have passed their knowledge on to me. And that is a very humbling thing, okay? When you're 24 years old and you decide that what you want to do with your life is serve humanity, that's a rare thing. If you look at the demographics, for example, on my YouTube channel, have a look at the audience. From the ages of 0 to 19, 0% of the audience. From 20 to 25 and 30, all still 0% of the audience. From 30 to 45, 0% of the audience. You start to get the picture here. 45 to 60. That is the age group where 100% of my audience is, according to those YouTube demographics. 100% are over 45, between that and 60. that's according to the demographics and people who've actually, put their name and their date of birth and so on and so forth. It's a simple metric. Why is that? You might wonder, why aren't there any young people involved here? And anybody who's younger than 45, trust me, you're young. Okay, I'm young. I'm 39. And I wonder if there's a concept that people can really get their head around here, and that's what it takes to wake up, what it takes to start questioning the entire system. It might take you 45 years. All right, you go through schooling, you graduate high school at about the age of 18, and then either you go into university, which is further indoctrination, and you might stay there till you're about maybe 25 or something like that, depending on your degree that you're getting. And then when you get out of there, you're going to be spending 10, 15, 20 odd years going from job to job to job, trying to find out what you want in life, and only to not find it. And during that time, because you are different to other people, you're going to get persecuted, you're going to get called names, you're going to get isolated, you're going to get depressed, you're going to get angry. In that depression, it's the fourth stage of the grief process. The fifth stage, which is what most people never reach, is acceptance. Okay, so theoretically it might take about 45 years of going through the system and being shafted by it before you get depressed enough and get over that depression before you're capable of accepting the truth. And the truth is that you're the one who's going to save you, that you have to work on yourself. You don't have a choice. If you live by yourself and you get up in the morning, nobody else is cooking you breakfast. You got to cook yourself breakfast. Nobody else is going to do the dishes afterwards. You got to do the dishes afterwards. Nobody's going to clean and fold your washing for them. You got to do it. And it's the same thing in your head with the things that you want to be in life, with the things that you want to do. You are the one who is most directly responsible for it. You want to play piano? It is never too late to start. You could just play it every day. And eventually you'll, after years and years and years, you would have done hundreds and hundreds of hours of practice with that. Okay? And you might actually become really good at it because you dedicated yourself to it. There was this woman who was 62 years old, and she started playing piano after her husband died. And people thought she was crazy. It's like, what the hell's the point? You're 62, why take up a new skill? And by the time she was 92, she could play Bach and Mozart and Beethoven. And people would swear that she was a concert pianist when she was younger. And they're shocked when they hear that she started piano at 62. It is never too late to change. The things that people are struggling with is basically a dopamine rush. Every time you're on social media, every time you're in front of a screen, even if you're watching or listening to the show right now, it's giving you a dopamine release. Your brain is telling you that you're actually accomplishing something. Now, theoretically, you might not be accomplishing anything by this, okay? Because it's what you do after the show. It's what you do before the show that really counts. Have you got your shit together? I know? No? Okay. Nobody else is going to get that together for you. You got to do it. Now, when it comes to getting awakened, and that's the title of the show, that people are not as awake as you think, the innumerable people in the truth movement that I've spoken to, they're very, very similar. A lot of them have addictions. Okay? Now, addictions are widespread. Why do people have addictions? According to Barry Cooper, who's the most decorated drug enforcement officer in the history of the United States. He said that anybody who has an addiction, anybody who is a quote-unquote addict, is simply an ordinary human being that has unresolved trauma. That's it. That's why you drink. That's why you smoke. That's why you watch porn. That's why you twiddle around and watch movies. That's why you play video games. All of these things are distracting you. All of these things are giving you a dopamine hit that your brain is interpreting as you actually accomplishing something. Whereas you're not. You're feeding an addiction to make yourself feel better because of that unresolved trauma that you haven't really dealt with yet. What kind of trauma is it? Have you been in a bad relationship with a woman who yelled at you, abused you, threatened to take your kids, or something of that nature? There are innumerable men out there who have been damaged by women. They don't look out for the red flags, and these are lower quality men who lower quality women gravitate to. You want a good woman? You're going to have to be a good man. It's kind of like if you want good friends, you've got to be one. Let's say you wanted to go out on a date with somebody, and that somebody was you. Look at what you do with yourself. How much discipline do you have? How much delayed gratification do you practice? Is there a point to what you're doing in your life? If you got a purpose that you are working towards? If you don't have any of those, good luck finding a quality partner. They're not going to gravitate towards you, because what women do, and this is just speaking to the men specifically, is they date up. Okay? If you are a higher social status than a woman, she will be interested in you. But if you are an addict and you don't have a purpose in life, and you don't practice self-discipline, and you haven't got your shit together, the only women who'll be interested in you are ones who are even worse off than you, and you definitely don't want them in your life, because they will screw you over, and they will destroy your life. This is the whole MGTOW movement, men going their own way. And my mother talked about this as a natural reaction to the rise of feminism. Okay, feminism financed by the CIA, Miss Magazine in the 1970s, and the whole idea that the bankers had. This is a conversation between Nicholas Rockefeller and Aaron Russo, God rest his soul. Is they just wanted the women out of the house, because they weren't able to tax half the population. And if they're making money up out of thin air and getting everybody into debt, having half the population that can't get into debt because they can't pay it off, because they don't work, because they're busy raising children properly, and it's a full-time freaking job, then, you got to do something about that. And so what this did is it got a societal bridge. All right, the bridge between men and the bridge between women. Women are quintessentially chaotic. All right, there's a general rule of thumb. Oh man, women are crazy and what have you. They're not crazy. They're chaotic. Okay, men at their best are orderly. Okay, and that's why men and women, when they're working together, work very well, because a woman will have a look at what the guy is doing, find all sorts of problems with it, test it whole bunches of times, show him what's wrong with it, and then he, as the man, must then fix it. It's not like he's obeying his partner or anything. It's just that she can see things that he can't, and he can do things that she can't, right? She sees, he does. She sees, he does. This is a partnership. Okay, most men don't have a partnership with their significant other because they had no real interest in who they are as a person. It was just a sexual thing, or a money thing, or a party thing, or whatever. You were basically just addicted. It's just a dopamine rush that you're trying to get through sex. And because sex and sexualization is absolutely everywhere, people don't know how this affects the dopamine outputs in the brain. Okay, you're getting hundreds and hundreds of % more dopamine in your brain to the point where now a lot of young men who are watching porn all the time can't even get an erection, right? As in, they get off on watching other people doing it and playing with themselves to the point where they can't even do the deed themselves because they've been programmed in a particular manner. And that's dangerous, okay? Very, very dangerous. And in terms of the survival of the human race, yeah, that's freaking dangerous, man. Imagine if you couldn't breed because you literally don't have the ability. What are you going to do? What are you going to go through life next and do, huh? So having that discipline, looking at yourself really honestly, because the vast majority of people will not look at themselves objectively, and even people who try really can't. You can't look at yourself objectively. People think about themselves way more than they think about other people. There's a lot of insecure people out there, and they are always constantly worried about what other people think of them. The chances are very good that those people who you're worried about don't think about you at all. Those things that you are worried about yourself and how you appear, most people have never even noticed any of these things. It's all you. It's all in your head. If you sit around worrying about other people, bitching about them, that kind of thing, you're spinning your wheels. You're not going to accomplish anything because it's taking you away from your purpose. This is what it means to really be awake, in my opinion, is that you have developed and are working towards your life's purpose. Now, if you don't have one, every day is going to be a parade of dopamine addiction. You'll get up in the morning, and by the end of the day, you will have topped yourself out on dopamine through all the various addictions that you go through. And you can't have real impetus and real motivation to do anything purposeful with this parade of addictions. And that's why society is so proliferated with ways to satisfy those addictions. Screen addiction probably is one of the things that people don't really know too much about. Did you know that if you're on your phone too much, and too much is more than an hour a day, all right? Most of you will do that in your morning before work. It reduces your empathy, your ability to feel what other people feel. Not the ability to recognize whether or not somebody's having a bad day or something like that, but the ability to talk to them and actually feel what they're going through, all right, to really care, as it were. So that is a big problem, because the vast majority of this truth content, mine included, you will only really be able to access it through some kind of device. And that is not good, right? This is why I tell people the best thing that you can possibly do for this broadcast is to find your purpose in life. A purpose that is meaningful, a purpose that is difficult, and a purpose that means that you don't have the time to watch this show anymore, okay? Or anybody else's, because you're too busy working on your purpose in life. That's the goal of the show, truly. The best kind of management, they say, is the kind that makes things so efficiently well run that you no longer need to manage it. You see? And that's what we're talking about here when we talk about our purpose. My purpose, I think, my purpose is to help people find theirs. I found mine, and I'm doing it day in, day out, working towards it, and I am having an effect. The amount of people who have come to me and said that, Vinny, I'm no longer wanted to commit suicide, or I've cleaned out my garage, or I cleaned out my wardrobe, or something like that, right after a broadcast when I'm trying to encourage people to do those kind of things. Right? I'm having an effect. Is it the most effective show in the world? Is it the most popular show in the world? No. Not by a long shot, because that's not my purpose. My purpose isn't to suck your energy and to suck your attention and to accumulate wealth for myself so that I can buy lots of things that I don't need. That doesn't seem like a purpose to me. And so other people who are trying to do that, good luck to them. Okay? Good luck to them. I don't begrudge anybody what their particular purpose is. This is mine, and that's it. That's all I'm saying. So, the question is, how awake are people? Have you seen voting polls? Have you seen these polls of the media and so on and so forth? There was one released a number of years ago in the United States that said only 30% roughly actually believe anything the mainstream media says. 30% in the United States. And incidentally, 30% of people will believe anything they're told. Because they're too stupid to do any reasoning, to do any thinking, to ask any questions. All right? 30% of the population is that dumb. Now, the question is, how smart are you? Do you know how smart you are? Do you have a metric? Do you have an IQ study? IQ's not all the be-all and end-all, mate. Okay, there are 7 types of intelligence. IQ, only one of them, is a very important one, but so are the others. My sister, for example, Marcy, she has kilograms, all right, pounds and pounds of ribbons that she's won at horsing events. I haven't done that. You know, that's amazing. It takes a completely type of different intelligence to do that to what I do. What I do, I do it really amazingly too, as well. So you can't really compare apples with apples when it comes to people's different type of intelligence and accomplishments in life, even if they're your sibling. All right? They do their thing, you do yours. You both have different types of intelligence and different types of ways that you speak and think and do things, different skills, stuff that you've worked on. Okay? And if that gives you kind of fullness, that's what it feels like this last week. I was 3 months behind on archiving the show. 3 months of shows. I hadn't archived them all. And so last week I sat down and I dedicated myself to get that up to date. And I did. I got 3 months work done in a week because I decided that that was what needed to happen. And I had the time and I was able to make the effort. And after it, I was absolutely exhausted, but I felt good. When you feel tired and yet lighter, relieving yourself of the burdens. That's what your work is supposed to do for you. It's supposed to make you work really hard. It's supposed to make you exhaust yourself and then give you your dopamine through that hard work, through that concentration, through that dedication, through that commitment. These are the things that are absolutely necessary for somebody to actually have happiness in life. Not a lack of stress, not an overabundance of joy, but enough hard work and accomplishment to make you feel like your life actually is worth living. That's why most people are addicted to many, many things and don't adopt that self-discipline, is because their life is meaningless. Meaninglessness. That'll kill you just as sure as any of the other innumerable threats out there to your health or your physical body, meaninglessness. That kills you in your head first. It kills you in your heart. Kills you in your gut. Not having a purpose. Don't ever convince yourself that you're not worth it. That you don't have a purpose. That you can't do it. That it's too late. These are lies you tell yourself so that you can continue feeding your addictions. That's it. Now, when it comes to awakening, how many aspects to awakening, right? You ever talk to somebody about one particular subject? It might be 9/11, or it might be climate change, or it might be jabs, or it might be the Anunnaki. It doesn't matter. There's lots and lots of different subjects. That's going to take you 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours of podcasts, radio shows, YouTube videos, documentaries, interviews, and so on and so forth before you're able to really download, understand, and process that information. So voluminous is it that it will take you 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 3 years. That's 10,000 hours. Okay? That's how much work you have to do in order to just awaken yourself up. Now, there's a lot of people who've awakened since 2020 because of all that stuff that was going on there, or at least they claim to be awake, but they still think that climate change is a thing. Okay? Now, I want to get into this one here, because there's a lot of people who are, claim to be on part of the truth or whatever, but they still support this climate change agenda. So if you're listening and you don't know that these things, this is for you. There's building blocks to life, okay? Carbon dioxide is one of them. There's a group called 350.org who want to keep the parts per million in the atmosphere below 350 parts per million. Okay? Sure. Great goal there, guys. Let's try to reduce the life-giving gas that greens the planet. And let's not talk about the Precambrian period where it was like 3,000, 5,000 parts per million, where all the plants and the animals were growing huge. Don't worry about the huge amount of coal power plants in India and China that are being put up, and don't look at the how it's affecting their landscape, how it is becoming greener and more lush. Right? Anti-life. Somebody asked me, Vinny, what are we up against here? Are we up against the reptilians? Are we up against the Anunnaki? Are we up against the Freemasons? Are we up against the Satanists? Are we up against the Vatican? And the answer is yeah, but if you had to really define it, we're up against anti-life, right? Life grows. Life produces itself. Life regulates itself. That's what it is. Anti-life wants to be able to kill indiscriminately, control indiscriminately. It's not something you really want to live under. And you had a massive chasm between the understanding of people about real environmental issues. Had a lady on the other day, Alison White, talking about the pesticides that damage the brain that are in almost all the foods that people consume on a daily basis. And you wonder why the population is getting dumbed down. You wonder why the cancer rate is going through the roof, right? All of these things being affected by only one of the additives in our food, and there's many of them, right? Huge. That's an environmental disaster. Environment means everything. Everything around you, everything in front of you, everything behind you. That's the environment. So, let's say that there are a lot of things that are more likely to kill you than the climate changing. Now, somebody asked me once at a socialist meeting, "Oh, Vinny, you don't believe in climate change." And I go, "No, I believe in climate change. I never said that there wasn't a climate. It's been changing for 4 billion years. Okay? Long before there were men here," and that's even if you believe in this kind of thing called the fossil record and stuff, which I don't. Maybe that stuff didn't happen 65 million years ago or something like that. Carbon dating only goes back, 50,000 years? And then you have to do radiological tests and so on and so forth and figure out how old stuff is and blah, blah, blah. Whereas if you were talking about the end of the world, and this is what climate change activists are trying to prevent. They're trying to prevent the end of the world, my friend. Have a look at what happens when there are giant floods. Okay, there's 187 cultures around this world that recorded a giant flood, including the New Zealand Māori. And if you have a giant flood that suddenly dumps a crap load of mud onto you and you get stuck and you die, your bones become fossilized reasonably soon after. Even Jonathan Gray talked about this, where people in Australia were taking out the fence posts of their grandfather on their farms and find out that those fence posts had turned to coal. Okay? Fossilization and all of that kind of thing happens a lot faster than you think it does, and maybe our history is a lot shorter than we're told it is. Maybe we've only been around here for another couple of 100 years or something like that. Who knows? Who knows? But it's completely irrelevant to the point of environmentalism when we talk about this, right? A lot of these environmentalists think that oil is a fossil fuel. And I'm just telling you that there ain't really no such thing as fossils and so on and so forth in the way that we conventionally think of them. They simply got dumped a whole bunch of mud on them at one point, and then they froze in place, and they died, and then their bones fossilized under the pressure and the weight of all of that mud. Okay, that's where the fossils come from. So therefore, where does fossil fuel come from? You've seen aerial photographs of regions with rivers and tributaries and things of that nature. Have a look at your hand, your arm, or whatever. You'll see veins in it, blue veins, right? Very, very similar to how the Earth is actually structured, because the Earth is actually a living organism. And what do you have when you cut one of your veins or one of your arteries? Blood, okay? And the Earth has blood too. That's what we call oil. It's what we call abiotic. Okay, if you bled a litre or a quarter of a gallon of blood or something of that nature, you wouldn't die. And as long as you had, a couple of cookies and maybe some lunch and some water or something like that, your body would be able to regrow and make more blood. That's how the Earth works. You drill into it, you suck the oil out, and then eventually the oil regrows. This is what they found out during the oil price shock in the 1970s, when all these wells in Texas were drying up. And then a decade or so later, they opened those oil fields again, because those derricks were full of oil again. Okay? Abiotic. It grows like blood in your body does. The Earth just produces it. Now, this is why the oil companies took control of that particular resource and financed people like Harry J. Anslinger to make hemp illegal, because hemp was able to be used as a fuel, and they didn't want any competition. They want to control everything. That's why they bottleneck everything. That's why they set the price of oil in London every day. That's why the oil prices can go up and go down, even though they told you that it's running out. Oh, we've reached peak oil. I remember I was looking after some kids at a play centre one time. And after all the kids had gone home, I had a look at the little library that they had there. And one of them had a book that said that oil was going to run out by 1992. Right? These people just lie. Okay? They're just lying to you. When they tell you carbon dioxide's a pollutant, that's a lie. When they tell you the climate is changing and we're the ones that are changing it, that's a lie. Why do they lie like that? Well, here's why. What human activity, any human activity that you can think of, does not produce carbon dioxide? Not one. So, when people talk about a carbon tax, what are they actually talking about? They're taxing human existence. And the old saying is the power to tax is the power to destroy. So if you've got no fossil fuels and it's abiotic, and you've got the life-giving gas, which is giving life to everything, and you've got a bunch of people out there who believe that's a bad thing, to give life, what are these people worshipping? They're worshipping anti-life. This is where communism comes in. And Greenpeace used to be an environmental organization. The founder of Sea Shepherd was one of the people who helped start that organization. And he has gone public since, saying that the reason why he's doing Sea Shepherd and got away from Greenpeace, which he helped found, is because they've been taken over by communists. Okay? What's the main tenet of communism? It's anti-freedom, anti-life. Okay? That's it. They want you to spend money just to be able to live so that you can't be free, you can't thrive, and you can't make a difference in your own life or the lives of others. That's basically what communism is, and that is also what the current environmental movement that obsesses about climate change all the time actually is. They're not environmentalists by the strict speaking of the word. They are mentally ill communists. Okay? I will say that again. If you are a climate change activist, be aware that you're not actually an environmentalist. You are a mentally ill communist. Mentally ill because reality doesn't make a difference to you. You don't see reality for what it is. You don't accept information that changes your beliefs. You simply ignore it. That is mental illness. That is what you got. And I am not going to have a bar of it. If you want me to put up with your mental illness and be a slave to people who believe like you that mankind wasn't meant to be free, that mankind wasn't meant to have its own future and destiny outside of the auspices of some kind of overarching AI control grid power structure that tracks and traces you wherever you go, if that's what you really think, then that's a mental illness. Okay? You're freaking out of your mind. And you're telling everybody what to do when you don't even know what you're doing with your life. You're a crazy person. Shh. All right? So the only response I've really got to you, just shh. Be quiet. You're polluting the world with your freaking BS. And it may sound harsh, but it is nonetheless true. We're talking about the four horsemen of the apocalypse here. Ignorance, apathy, laziness, and cowardice. If you're a climate change activist, you are completely ignorant of what CO2 is, you're completely ignorant of what oil is, you're completely ignorant of what human activity is. That's your entire life. That affects everything. You think it's not being affected by it? How is your life not being affected by oil? How did all your stuff get here from overseas? How did all those products end up on the shelves? How did you even get to the store? Oh, I rode my bike and stuff like that. Great. Try doing that when it's in the middle of winter in northern Canada. Okay, and you've got to go, I don't know, drive 100 miles to get to work and back in the freezing cold snow. You're not going to be able to do it. So you're going to wind up being in a smart city. Okay? This is the true agenda of climate change, is because it's environmentalism, in inverted commas, everythingism, and they want control over everything. Okay? Including all your isms. Now, we have this plan called Agenda 21. All right? New Zealand signed up to it. Our Former Prime Minister Jim Bolger in 1992 at the Rio Earth Summit signed this document, signed our country up to it. And it basically says this: we want to make life sustainable. And we're going to list all the things that are not sustainable, like paved roads, medicine, electricity, mining, manufacturing. So every freaking thing is not sustainable, according to these people. That means they want to wipe out everything. Everything. They've got these things called the biodiversity program, where these tiny little dots on the map is where human activity will be allowed. You will live there and you won't go anywhere else. Not for the rest of your life. You won't be able to get more than 15 minutes away from your home before you encounter a checkpoint that checks your badge and stuff like that, and then tells you to go back home if you don't got the clearance. There's these wonderful, beautiful outdoor areas, places in nature, that human activity will be highly restricted or banned entirely. They're going to put up these barriers that animals will be able to migrate north and south and stuff like that. It's going to be a beautiful planet, but you, as a human being, your children, their children, and their children, potentially, if the system gets finished setting up, if people don't do anything to stop it, will be in a highly surveilled superstate where you will never leave your home virtually. Almost everything will be virtual. You'll be post-human. You'll have things implanted in your body that allow you to access the internet and get into your home and so on and so forth. And all those things will be able to be hacked. So if you start thinking in a way that you're not allowed to think, they can just turn your chip off. And then you can't get into your home. You can't access your bank account. And because nobody else can either, if they do that kind of thing, you're going to die. All right? That's it. You will be living under pain of death if you even so much as think the wrong way. This is the social credit system that they've already got in China. Chang was walking across the street in Shanghai and he was muttering to himself, "Bloody CCP," and then all of a sudden his phone gets a little notification. "You criticize China!" And then "You are locked out of your home!" And then he's really pissed off now. Poor Chang, he can't even get home, mate. And so he starts yelling, "Bloody CCP! How you doing with your tyranny?" And then he gets another notification saying that his bank account's now been turned off and that his phone is going to be disabled after receiving this particular notification. Now he's got no money, no home, and no way of communicating to ask anybody for help, all because he criticized the Communist Party. You want to live like that? No! That's why it's called the forgotten word. It's called no. You try that here? No way, man. So, the question is, a lot of people don't want this. I know that you probably don't want this either. So how do you do it? How do you stop these people from doing it? The late Rosa Koire wrote a book called Agenda 21, Behind the Green Mask. I think I've got a copy on my bookshelf here. Signed copy. Can't get any more of those anymore. She's gone. And I miss people like that because they taught us so much, and luckily they've left breadcrumbs to follow. The key thing here is called the anti-Delphi technique. You might not be familiar with the Delphi technique. If you've ever been to a council meeting, you know how they got a planned agenda and you're only allowed to speak about those topics? Delphi technique. You know how they've got a couple of different plans that they've already prepared for you, that you can only pick out of those plans that they've prepared for you, and so they get what they want anyway? Delphi technique. Okay? The anti-Delphi technique is not how you run the meeting, it's how you derail it. I've seen this happen a number of times. People will go into meetings with a group of their activist friends. There might be 4 of them, there might be 10 of them, but they all sit together as a big group. And then, what does the politician who's being asked these difficult questions say? He says, I'm going to ignore these people here and I'm going to stand on the other end of the room and talk to the audience that way, even though everybody now has to crane their necks like that. All right, this actually happened with Jonathan Coleman from the National Party, the former health minister of New Zealand. It was extraordinary. But what was even more interesting is that there was, yes, a group of people there talking about their injured children and so on and so forth, but there were other people there, myself included, who had different questions to ask the minister. And all of us got a good question in to that health minister because we weren't sitting together and being ignored as the first group of people were because we were all separate. This is the anti-Delphi technique. Go to the meetings, yes. Don't sit together, no. Sit as far apart as you possibly can in disparate corners of the room. When they have their planned agenda start to be rolled out, that's when the first of you says, hey, no, I've got a question about that, and then they'll yell him down and tell him that the questions can only be for the end. That's when the second person on the opposite end of the room stands up and says, you haven't answered that gentleman's question. I want to hear the answer too. And then they'll yell you down and stuff. And that's when the third person stands up. Before you realize it looks like the entire crowd is totally against them. And you've completely and utterly derailed their agenda. Okay? Rosa Corey created this frickin' technique, or at least very much put it down in her book, Behind the Green Mask. Use it. People are dead now without their life's work being achieved. And it is the obligation of those of us who are still alive to carry on the fight in their name, in their spirit. I do believe that my contributions, my meager contributions to the world truth movement are relatively insignificant when it comes to the whole globe and the global awakening that people are looking for. And that is another thing that is really bugging me with people, is that they think that the awakening's already happening. It's not! The awakening is not happening, guys. Seriously. So many people have told me this. And I have asked each and every one of them. I think it might have been like 16 people in the last couple of years or something that I've actually tried to have a conversation with about this. And I've asked them to show me some evidence. Any evidence of any kind that there's some kind of mass awakening happening. They got nothing. All right? They've been told that the white hats are coming to save you. Trump's coming to save you. Oh, if everybody just knows the earth is flat, then it'll save us. The futility of trying to wake up these people who think they're awake. Okay? None are more asleep than those who falsely think they're awake. And you can't, as David Icke said, wake up somebody who's pretending to be asleep. Okay? So if you still believe in the whole climate change mantra and agenda and what have you, don't take my word for it that it's BS. Do some research. For the first time in your life, research that you are looking for to answer a question that you are asking. Is Vinny right about this? I know I am. And if you wanted me to prove it to you, I could show you the evidence, not just my words and the decade plus of research I've done into this topic and the people who've been getting their hands dirty with all the documents and so on and so forth. Then they'll come up with all of these logical fallacies like, oh, but tornadoes are worse than they ever been. Oh yeah, here we are, National Institute of Weather Association, NIWA, and no, it's not any worse than it ever was. And oh look, here they've deleted the records to show areas that were actually worse before this whole climate change mantra came on. So it's a scam. All right, that's it. Period. It's a scam. And a lot of people who are in part of the so-called freedom movement. I'm not part of the freedom movement, by the way, guys. I'm part of the truth movement. Freedom is not something you get if you don't have truth first, by the way. That's part of the reason why there's an all-seeing eye triangle. The top of the triangle is the truth. Then going down, you get your love, and then you get your freedom. Truth, love, freedom. Truth, love, freedom. Truth comes first. Then if you're actually in a truthful situation, that way you can actually experience love. And when you can actually experience love, then you will get the possibility of freedom. Okay? Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, don't worry, good wins in the end. Who told you that? The Vatican? What a great way to make people stand right down. It's like if you've seen the Dune Part 2 that was released earlier this year, one of the characters said, if you tell people that a Messiah is coming to save them, it's a great way to get them to stand down, to get them to stop fighting for freedom. That is what happens when you believe that somebody's coming to save you, somebody's coming to wake you up. That is what happens when you rely on people like me or this network to do all the work for you. No. Right, let's say it's a 10-to-1 ratio. I might have spoken for about an hour today, and I might have told you a few things that you didn't know, or a few things that you sort of did know but haven't quite realized, or a few things that you have suddenly noticed about yourself that you now want to work on. If you spent an hour listening to this show, and you don't spend 10 hours getting that knowledge solidified, so that you not only realize it, but you implement it in your own life, this show is a waste to you. Okay? Now, you don't have to wake up immediately. Dr. Rima Labo told me that is, I called it the seventh man. If one person comes up to you from a certain social circle at a certain point in your life, and they tell you something that's 180 degrees opposite to your very strongly held belief, you will tell that person to F off and call them a conspiracy theorist. You will. The second person, from a second different time, from a second different social circle, tells you the exact same thing the first guy did that's very strongly opposed to your very strongly held belief. You'll also tell them, F off, you're a conspiracy theorist. Now, this is statistically speaking, they call the 7 degrees of separation, but it's an interesting dynamic that by the time the seventh different person, at a seventh different time in your life, from a seventh different social circle, says to you for the seventh time something that is strongly opposed to your very deeply held belief, that is when you will consider changing it. I see a lot of people running around trying to convince people of stuff. Okay? I have 3 words to say about that. The fucking futility. Alright? You try to convince people who've only encountered the first or the third man or something like that. You're spinning your wheels, mate. You don't try to convince them. Just say something and then drop it. Just drop it like a grenade. Pull the pin, chuck it in. It blows up in their face later. You'll see. A lot of people, including my own family, calling me a crazy conspiracy theorist, and telling me I don't believe in science, or so on and so forth, and they slowly come round. Why? Not because of me. Only partially because of me. because I've stuck to it. I didn't give up because I wasn't lying to myself. I wasn't lying to other people. I have a purpose. I'm fulfilling that purpose. I'm being reasonably successful at it. That convinces people that you are probably correct. That does. Sitting around bitching and moaning and stuff like that and trying to correct everything everybody else is doing? No! Don't take responsibility for other people and what they think. Marcus Aurelius said that reputation and character are two completely different things. Reputation is what other people think of you. Character is who you really are. And I want to note to people, if you're listening to this show, if you're one of the regular listeners, even if you've tuned out for a while and you've only just come back now for some reason, maybe you needed to listen to this particular broadcast. Normally I've got guests and stuff. It's not just me ranting for an hour. Maybe you did need to be here. Maybe you did need to hear this. And I'll tell you something else you need to hear. Give yourself a bit more credit. Think about all you've been through. Think about everything that's been done to you. Think about all the things you've done. Think about all the people you've helped. Think about the fact that you still have your conscience, you still have your sense of humor, and you still have your soul. You should be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. You know why? Because you give me hope. It was hopeless when I started. Absolutely hopeless. Going out there, the only people you can go around and protest with back in the day in New Zealand were a bunch of frickin' communists. Like, literally. I was going to socialist meetings and all of that kind of thing. I didn't know what socialism was. All I saw was people protesting and telling the truth about certain aspects of government agenda. I didn't know what I was talking about. And when you go out first and you're only just starting to learn this stuff, you might go down a few mistaken paths as well. But as Professor X said in Days of Future Past, just because somebody stumbles and loses their way doesn't mean they're lost forever. And I am grateful that you have found your way back. I'm grateful that I found my way back. I'm grateful that I have awakened people, many, many people in this country and many others, to the truth about many of the aspects of our life. And I am very, very grateful to have you guys as listeners. Why? Because, again, I've spoken to you. You're all pretty bright. You've all got skills. You've been through a hell of a lot. And you didn't turn bad. And I love you guys. I truly do. That's it for today's ranty broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. Now, do you love me? Do you love the Vinny Man? Please, for the love of all that is merciful, go to thevinnyeastwoodshow.com because, guys, I need an extra $300 a week or a flatmate or something like that. So, yeah, I'm in trouble, guys. Big, big trouble. So I'm going to be working really, really hard to try and make up what I can. And, guys, I did want to show you, let me see, the latest broadcast that we've put up before we go. This is a broadcast that I've put up this last week that have been recorded over the last 3 months. Pesticides that damage the brain are in our food supply. This is Alison White on the Vinny Eastwood Show. Why you should be proud of yourself. The holiday is over. The Vinny Eastwood Show returns. Artificial intelligence. Friend, foe, or both. Arge Nost on the Vinny Eastwood Show. Life's hard for conspiracy theorists. Super Cancers Exposed with naturopath David Holden on the show. What makes a good network with Rob Davenport from Ground Zero Radio. That was actually a bit of an eye-opener, that one. And Ukraine joins NATO. Vinny Eastwood with Tees on the AM Wake Up. I love going on other people's shows, man. It's always good to hear new hosts and stuff like that. We had a great show, that one. The Third World War, the divide and conquer in the New Zealand freedom movement. Vinny Eastwood and Billy TK on the Big Puzzle with Barry Prince. Marsden Point and Energy Independence on the Vinny Eastwood show. We had a couple of guys on there as guests. Were good. Are Australia and New Zealand still colonies? Vinny Eastwood on the Aussie Guru show. So those are just the ones that I've put up from the last 3 months in the last week. That was a hell of a lot of work, guys. And I got to tell you that it was free. I nearly killed myself, honestly. So, do you support that work? Do you support how hard I am working? Do you like the content that is being espoused on this radio show? I need you now. Okay, I actually do need you to please, pretty please, go to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. If you have a bank account in New Zealand, use the KiwiBank number there and start up an automatic payment. $5 a week, $10 a month, $1 a month, whatever it is that you can spare. Well, my biggest donor gives me $300 a month, and that really helps to pay the internet and power bills and stuff like that come in at the end of the month. But now I need help with just basic rent and basic food, guys. I really do need a hell of a lot of help. Now, if you can't help me, find somebody who can. Okay? Introduce people to this show. Tell them Vinny needs help, and he needs help right now. And I can tell you, I will be very, very grateful. Now, if you're starving, if you've got problems and so on and so forth, you literally can't afford anything. You can't even afford 33 cents. Don't donate. Help in other ways. Give me a like. Give me a subscribe. Click the notification bell. There are lots of different social media things on the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Rumble, Telegram, BitChute, Odyssey, and also the One Great Work Network. Also on Instagram. So please follow us and like us and share these shows with every single person that you possibly can, because it's important. All right, I really do need your help, guys, and I can't do this without you. I've never been able to do this show without your support. Okay? I remember the first year that I did this, I was on a sickness benefit for depression, because I was really depressed that the world was enslaved by ruthless criminal sociopathic scumbaggery. Told the doctor about this, and I go, oh man, that sounds really depressing. Here you go. Here's some money every week for you to only just barely survive while you're going out and filming protests and public meetings and editing them and putting them up and making sure the activists who actually contribute to this country's intellectual cash don't get forgotten. That people actually get to hear what they said and actually get to absorb their knowledge. And that, of course, I built the biggest audience that anybody's ever built in New Zealand up until the point of the 2020 election when Billy TK came on the scene. And who did he get to help him to do that? He got me to help him. And there's been a lot of other people in the truth movement, freedom movement and so on and so forth that have popped up since then, and I'm grateful. I'm absolutely grateful for each and every one of them. I'm grateful for Free NZ. I'm grateful for Counterspin Media. I'm grateful for Lee Williams. I'm grateful for Samantha Edwards. I'm grateful for Brian Tamaki. I'm grateful for Billy TK. Everybody can have all of their personal issues and stuff like that with any of these people, or the things you disagree, or guilt by association. Oh, they interviewed this person. Oh, they associated with this person. I don't trust them. You can go ahead and you can do that. But I personally am extremely grateful to anyone in any country in this world who stops working a regular little job, who stops being on holiday and enjoying their retirement, and decides instead to dedicate their time, their effort, and their reputations to at least trying to wake people up, at least trying to get the information out to them. How could you be anything but grateful? Am I hurt that a lot of these people don't give me the same praise? Yeah. Do I feel kind of sidelined and blackballed by the entire freedom community? Yeah. Do I care? No. I'm glad that you're here, guys. I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing, and I want you to keep it up, because that's what I'm doing. And you give me hope, even if you don't give me support, even if you don't give me any shout-outs, even if when I'm struggling or being arrested or something like that, you don't show up, I'm still grateful for you. Because you're helping other people other than just me. I'm only one guy. And you're helping lots and lots of other people. And I understand that. And I'm not going to get offended by it. And I'm not going to say terrible and mean things about you. Because it's just immature. And I don't want to do that. And I haven't done it for a long time. Since there was one guy back in the day. Mr. Pete Santilli, that after 3 years of getting stalked by this guy and getting his flying monkeys out after me and having my channel sabotaged and all of that kind of stuff, you bet your ass I went after him. And very soon after I released my little documentary about him, the unauthorized biography of Pete Santilli, he went to jail in the United States. And he wasn't allowed to testify. You know why? Because FBI informants aren't allowed to testify under oath. Because then you'll know that they're actually an FBI informant, and they wanted to keep him in the American Truth Movement, and he's still there, causing havoc and trouble, but he ain't coming after me anymore, because he knows what happens. Okay? You push me too far, and you will regret doing it. First, I'll ignore you and record everything you say, everything you send. And if you don't stop, then I will use all of those things that you've said and all of those things you've done and find all of the people you've hurt and compile a story that is absolutely true, that makes you look like exactly what you are, which is precisely what you don't want people to know. Don't mess with me, or you will suffer my wrath. Thank you very much to all of you who are so cool, so fun, have such great stories to tell. Man, you guys are awesome. You ever noticed that when somebody gives you a compliment, and then it's immediately followed by somebody else giving you an insult, you remember the insult, not the compliment. Or at least you remember it a lot more. So guys, yeah, one last time, thank you very much. Ladies, gentlemen, and hermaphrodites. My fellow slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes.
Attention all Ground Zero fans. Aftermath.media is celebrating our 4-year anniversary with a spectacular deal just for you. Wow! For a limited time, you can get an Aftermath Premium yearly subscription for only $79. That's right, just $79 for a full year of exclusive content, ad-free listening, and premium features. Dive into a world of incredible stories, top-tier journalism, and the best in entertainment. Whether you're a long-time listener or new to Ground Zero, this is the perfect time to join the Aftermath family. Don't miss out on this amazing anniversary special. Visit Aftermath.media today and sign up for your Aftermath Premium yearly subscription at just $79. But hurry, this offer won't last long. Celebrate with us and elevate your media experience to the next level. Aftermath.